Managing space is one of the most important management practices as a beekeeper. Whether you're utilizing a Langstroth hive, top bar, ware, or any other type of hive, understanding how bees use the cavity of space and managing that space accordingly will help you in your beekeeping journey. One of the first key concepts for managing space is the idea that the brood nest and colony population will go through a period of compression, or getting smaller, and expansion, or getting bigger. Honeybees have a very organized and predictable way of laying out their hive. They keep their baby bees, or brood, at the center of the colony, surrounded by pollen, so that the nurse bees can easily feed the growing larva that pollen protein. And then outside of the pollen frames or ring, there will be stored nectar and honey. The size of the entire colony will expand and contract with the seasons, but it's also important to realize that the colony will use their space differently with the seasons as well. They will use more cells for brood during the growth seasons to ensure they have an ample workforce to go forage for more resources. Then, when the resources become more scarce, they'll backfill those cells that were used for brood with pollen and nectar to ensure they've got enough food stored to get through dearth periods of extreme heat or extreme cold. Striking a balance between crowded and overcrowded may take some time and is one of the more difficult aspects to master as a beginner beekeeper. Some key concepts to keep in mind. 1. Crowded colonies are more productive. 2, bees need to be able to guard and heat the space within their cavity. And 3, during nectar flows, during those growth periods, and especially during springtime, a little extra space is okay, but keep in mind, of course, the above 2 concepts. Reasons you may need to add space include that the bees are in that growing season, and that the existing frames and comb are filled with resources and brood, so there's just not enough space for them to continue to grow. There may be times you enter the hive and decide to leave the space alone. This may be because growth has slowed and there's still a little bit of room inside the colony, or that the bees are crowded but not necessarily overcrowded. There may even be times when you need to remove space from the colony. If the hive is struggling since the last inspection, one of the first things we'll do is just condense the colony a little bit, making note of the fact that those productive colonies, or those crowded colonies, are more productive. If the population is just not filling the space adequately, then reducing them down into a smaller box or a smaller space can help. And then as you head into winter, you're going to want to make sure that the hive is compressed, because that is a time when they are most vulnerable. So you do want that crowded hive that they can easily heat and keep safe during winter. Here are a few techniques to consider in your space management arsenal. 1, the use of nukes for small or weak colonies can be a great way to help them get back into productivity mode. Once they grow or recover, you can bump them up into that larger space. 2, while follower boards in top bar hives are not necessary, they can be a great tool in your space management toolbox for the same reasons that a nuke can be. I love using follower boards while colonies are growing to give them the benefits of that crowded, well-populated space. And 3, always have extra equipment, because although we won't go into it in this class, splits can be a great tool for when the hive has gotten bigger than the boxes you'd like to keep them in. And at the end of the day, you get to choose how large that colony is going to be and how large you want to keep your colonies. Smaller colonies have the benefit of being on average more docile and easier to work, while larger colonies can be great for honey production, but also can be a little more difficult to manage and even get a little more defensive. Depending on your bees, your location, and your goals, you can make decisions on what steps to take and when your colonies get larger. As your colonies grow, you can begin to consider how you'll manage your apiary as a whole. If you plan to have 2, 10, 200, or even 10,000 hives, this will greatly influence how you'll manage your bees over time. As we've grown our bee business, we have learned from both small and large-scale beekeepers to become more effective and efficient with our bees. Let's talk about a few strategies you may use depending on your apiary size goals to either grow or maintain your apiary size. We always recommend keeping more bees than you actually want or need. Part of this is because bees have a natural attrition, like any animal, and with average colonies in the 30 to 40% loss range every year, you will want to make sure that you have enough bees to maintain the size of apiary you want or even need. So we use the 1.5 rule. If you want 1 colony, keep 2. If you want 10 colonies, keep 15. These numbers will naturally fluctuate as you manage your colonies throughout the seasons. So you may find that you need to split a colony or combine a colony throughout the year. So this flexibility with the numbers helps. If you're looking to keep your apiary the same size, here are some strategies to keep your hive numbers where you want them. If you see swarm cells, you can tear them down. Now, keep in mind that they will likely rebuild them, so you will need to requeen in those cases to keep from fighting an inevitable battle. Requeening annually can also reduce swarming tendencies, so once you hit your desired number, the strategy is a good way to proactively avoid swarming. Once you've reached your desired apiary size, you can equalize your hives to keep weak colonies stronger and to stunt strong colonies. If you just can't help but make more bees, because they will do that once you master beekeeping, then consider donated brood or splits to your fellow beekeepers or even local youth programs. Brood nest breakup is a strategy that can temporarily curb swarming, but it can also cause some confusion in the hive, so you definitely want to use it with caution. This consists of spreading the brood nest out just a little bit by adding a drawn comb frame to the edges of the brood nest and give the queen a little bit more space to lay. If you're looking to expand your apiary, then there are several additional factors to consider. When looking to expand through splits, make sure you have enough resources to do so. Splitting a weak or small colony can end up costing you your good bees. Make sure that you have the equipment and then some if you're looking to split. And make sure you've considered the additional time it's going to take to care for additional bees. Remember, growth is seasonal, so you're not going to be able to force bees to grow against the seasons. So plan your spring and maybe even fall accordingly. If you're looking to expand your apiary, there's a few ways to do this. The most reliable and cost-effective way is to get very good at splits. You can also purchase bees in bulk or buy out people who no longer want to keep bees. And lastly, you can catch swarms or do removals to add bees into your apiary. Let us know what questions you have about managing space within your colonies, expanding or maintaining your apiary size. Thanks so much for learning with us. And again, give us a follow.